What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC 283. We have Jamal Hill going against Glover Teixeira.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back breaking down UFC 283 from a betting perspective. We have 15 fights to talk about. I have 10 units on the line for this card, and it feels a little bit like last week where there's a lot of chalky price tags. We have a lot of big favorites this week, and I've been trying to stay away from the chalk as much as possible. I do have some chalky plays for this card, but I also have some plus money plays. So I have 9 bets we'll talk about, and we'll talk about this card from a betting perspective and a betting perspective only. If you do want a further, more in-depth breakdown on why I like what, why I'm picking which fighter, I did post a full card breakdown and prediction video on Monday, and then also went live on Friday as well, so be sure to check those out. Other than that, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. Now's a great time to sign up. We have a week off next week, and then we have 8 straight weeks of UFC. Really looking forward to it. The most popular option is that $10 a month betting option. With that, you get access to my stats, you get early access to my bets, you get the betting article that is posted on Friday with my Hail Mary, my prelim parlay, my main card parlay, me breaking down all my bets, and then I put out an article on Wednesdays typically. It's my full card and best bet article where I break down the entire card, give my prediction, the round, the method, confidence rating, and then also my best bet for each and every fight, and a lot more stuff as well, Discord access, all the good stuff, just a ton of information on there, dfsbythenumbers.com, a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Other than that, like, subscribe, all the good stuff, going live 1 hour prior to the prelims for some best bet, me, Uncle Weezy, Gordo. It's going to be a very fun show there, so check that out around 5 o'clock Eastern time, I think the card starts at 6, so yeah, lots going on, so make sure you subscribe to not miss out. Alright, I say we get into it. 9 bets that I have to talk about. A lot of spots sticking out, a lot of chalky lines, a lot of big favorites, like I said, but let's see if we can find some spots on this card here. All right, we're going to start with the very first fight of the card. We have Simon Oliveira going against Daniel Marcos, and I do have a bet here. So Marcos is a very popular play this week, and he actually opened up as a favorite. You see it right there. He opened up minus 150 there on BetOnline. He's currently plus 120. I remember he was like plus 160 at some point last week. So, a lot of money has came in on Marcos throughout the week, and, I think it's warranted. This is a guy where I went back and watched this guy prior to his Contender Series fight, and these fights are like 3-4 years ago. He took almost a 3-year layoff. He came back on the Contender Series 3 years later, and he looked like a completely different fighter. And I remember him talking on the show how he left his family to go train, and it definitely paid off there. So I think it's a close fight, but a bet that stuck out to me is the decision only on DraftKings Sportsbook. If you guys do not know, the decision only is the opposite of the finish only. The scorecard's no action, right? This means that if the fight goes to decision, whoever wins it, right? If the fight ends inside the distance, whether it's a Marcos finish or Oliveira finish, the bet voids. And DraftKings is hanging a plus 165 there, which is much better than the money line. And the reason I didn't pull the trigger on the money line for Marcos, to be honest, was, I think Oliveira could potentially get a submission here, but I think he's kind of sub or bust. And Marcos is 6-0 in decisions. Simon Oliveira is 2-4 in decisions. He's not a minute winner. So for this decision only to be at plus 165, does it void? Potentially. Maybe Marcos finishes Oliveira. Maybe Oliveira subs Marcos. But if this fight does go the distance, I feel pretty comfortable with that plus 165. I think Marcos can keep it on the feet. And on the feet, I think is the better striker here. So give me that decision only. Daniel Marcos, first fight of the card. And that's my only decision prop of the card. This is a very violent card, but I do think that one does go the distance. So give me Daniel Marcos decision only, half a unit, plus 165 there on DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, moving on, we have probably the most hilarious fight on the card, maybe the most hilarious fight of the year. We have Jose Nunez going against Zara Farron. Nunez, big favorite, minus 545. Farron, a big underdog. And I watched tape on this fight late Saturday night last week, and I was disgusted with what I saw from Zara Farron. There was a moment when I was watching her fight, and I just bursted out laughing, and I couldn't stop for like 5 minutes straight. I mean, it's bad. Not only is her ground game just non-existent, even her striking, like she's a striker, right? Like that's what her bread and butter is. Like even her striking, I'm just not that impressed. Defensively, her hands are low. Her head stays on the center line. She doesn't move it at all, and she's there to be hit. Jose Nunez, I think she has 2 paths to victory. Take Farron down to the mat. The fight's over shortly after. Farron has no ground game. The second way is just plod forward and just knock her out. Farron, she's going to be much bigger. We saw it at the weigh-ins, and I'll be honest, Farron could be 8 feet tall. I still wouldn't put any money on her. I mean, she's taken a massive layoff here. I'm shocked she even showed up. She's pulled out of her last like 4 or 5 fights. I'm shocked she made weight, barely. She even looked shocked that she made weight. I think this is Nunes all day despite the size disadvantage, and I think Nunes knocks her out. So the bet I have is going to be the under 2.5 rounds. Got it early. At minus 135, I have 1 unit on that. I still see a minus 150 out there. I think that's a great look, the under 2.5 rounds. I would say it covers both sides, but a fair finish would honestly shock me. Don't hate the Nunes inside the distance prop. Don't hate like even the under 1.5 is something I consider, but I like the under 2.5 rounds, get that extra round there. But I do think Nunes finishes fair in the very first round. Moving on, Warlley Alves, Nicholas Dalby. Yeah, not much here for me, guys. Warlley Alves, one of the most inconsistent fighters out there, and he's like the bet of the week. I mean, everybody's betting on Warlley Alves, and I can see why. I just can't personally trust the guy. Sometimes he shows up, he looks great. Sometimes he shows up, he looks just awful. On top of that, you know, looked like he had a little bit of a bad weight cut. He had to use the box of shame. Looked a little rough. Just another reason to stay away. Like, I'm not betting this fight. I stopped betting on Warlley Alves fights a while ago. Like, if anything in a Warlley Alves fight, you want to bet violence, but Dalby's not a violent fighter. Dalby's very tough, and Dalby's not finishing anybody. So it's just a big pass, a big stay away. Gonna sit back and watch. The pick's Alves. I'll be rooting for everybody to cash that Alves bet because I know a lot of people are on it, but I can't trust the dude, especially at chalk. Next, we have Terrence McKinney going against Ismael Bonfim. Probably my favorite fight on the prelims. I mean, Terrence McKinney is a very exciting fighter, and then we have Ismael Bonfim, who, you know, a lot of hype on the guy as well, and rightfully so. So I do have a play here. I have the under 1.5 rounds. I parlayed that with the Abdulrazak Alassane under 1.5 for last week. So I'm getting the McKinney under right here at plus 117, and I have 1 unit on it since the Alassane leg cashed last week, obviously, right? If you like the Alassane over last week and the fight goes, you're gonna love the over in this week for Terrence McKinney. Man, I wouldn't do it. I mean, you know, Terrence McKinney is a killer be killed fighter. The guy has 16, 17 fights. Only one of them has seen the third round won. He's only been over 1.5 rounds just one time. I think the under is the way to go. It's been just smashed throughout the last week, 2 weeks, and rightfully so. It's a Terrence McKinney fight. Not much else to say. I think McKinney has 2 minutes and 30 seconds to finish this guy, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. But if not, I mean, the guy falls off a cliff, and we've seen it time and time again with Terrence McKinney, right? If he does not finish Bonfim early, I have serious concerns about the pacing and the cardio, and Bonfim's very dangerous in his own right. So I see this being McKinney in the first couple minutes of the first round, and if he does not get Bonfim out of there, I think Bonfim probably finishes him late, but I think the under 1.5 covers both sides there. So I'm on it. In that parlay from last week with Alassane Ribeiro, 1 unit plus 117 it came out. Okay, moving on, we have Cody Stamann, Luan Lacerda. So I do have a bet here, and I'll say it right now. This is probably my least confident bet on the card, but it's plus money, and there are some reasons to like this one here. So I like the fight doesn't go to decision. I got it at plus 170. I have a half a unit on it. Here's the reason why. Luan Lacerda, an 88% finish rate, finishing at 10 of his 12 wins by submission. So if he wins, it's going to be by sub. Cody Stamann's been subbed twice, I know, by Sterling and Nurmagomedov, but he's been subbed twice nonetheless, right? And if Lacerda's going to win this fight, he's going to get it down to the mat, whether he's pulling guard. I don't think he's taking down Cody. Maybe Cody takes him down, and he gets a submission probably off his back, right? So if Lacerda wins, it's by sub. And if Stamann wins, you know, this guy's been a decisionator throughout the UFC. His first UFC finish came against Eddie Wineland. I get that. Eddie Wineland was 40. I cashed the knockout prop at like plus 360. That was awesome. But, you know, it's a step down. This is a step down for Cody Stamann. I think it's such a step down that I think he could potentially finish Lacerda. He's going to have a pretty big striking advantage here, although he's going to be at a pretty big reach disadvantage. You know, Lacerda making his debut against somebody in Cody Stamann who's fought like the who's who of the division. He's fought, you know, Sterling, Merab, Syed Nurmagomedov, and guys like that, Jimmy Rivera. So, I mean, Cody Stamann's fought legit guys, and Lacerda, he has a good grappler, but that's about it. I think Cody should roll here, and I think Cody probably wins a decision. I think decision's most likely, but I could see like a late finish, especially if Cody goes in there trying to take this guy's head off, and that's kind of what he was talking about in an interview, saying he should finish this guy in the first 2 rounds. So we'll see if he does or not, but I did take a half unit shot on the fight doesn't go at plus 170. Like I said, probably my least confident play, but I think it's worth a look at plus money with these guys. Next, we have Jailton Almeida, Shamil Abdurakhimov. Pass. Just a big pass. There's not much you can do here. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's minus 1,000. On FanDuel Sportsbook, it's minus 1,600, which has to be the widest fight doesn't go line I've ever seen. And I'm a violence guy. I have a lot of violent spots on this card. This is one I can't get to. I mean, the under 1.5 rounds is like minus 360. I mean, what are you going to do with that? I think there's much better playable violent spots on this card. What you could do is maybe take a shot in the KO prop, but even that's kind of getting smashed. It was at plus 300. At that, I had some interest, but at plus 225, like he could easily sub Shamil. I would caution people taking the over 1.5 rounds. I see some people talking about that. I know it's plus money, and the plus money looks great and all, but you're allowed to pass. Jonathan Almeida in all of his wins has never been over 1.5 rounds. And he's only been over 1.5 rounds once. So I would not bet the over. Even at like plus 185, it's still not enough money. Plus money to get me on that over. I think he does finish in the first round more often than not. It's just a big pass, a big stay away. No bet on this one for me. Next, we have Gabriel Bonfim going against Munir Lazzez. Munir Lazzez, another one of these popular dogs this week. I'm picking Bonfim with not a ton of confidence. I think this fight could be very competitive on the feet, especially where Lazzez is going to have probably the striking advantage. I like Lazzez's striking a lot. He has a lot of tools on the feet. Should have more tools in this matchup on the feet. Love the volume, the cardio of Lazzez, the toughness, the durability. So yeah, I like Lazzez on the feet here, but it's going to be Bonfim who's going to be landing the harder shots. If he does finish this fight, or if somebody does finish this fight, it's probably Bonfim, right? And then Bonfim has all the grappling advantages, in my opinion. This guy's a serious grappler on the mat if he can get it down. But I see why people are taking the dog shot on Lazzez here, but I can't quite get there. Just another pass for me. Going to sit back and watch this one. Next, we have Thiago Moises going against Mel Costa. We have Moises minus 365, Mel Costa plus 300 here. I'm on Moises inside the distance. I got it at plus 114. I'm on it for a half a unit. Also didn't mind the sub prop around, I think it was like plus 270. But yeah, I think he subs Costa here. Costa's a really good striker. I was actually really impressed with what I saw with the striking, but there's a hole in his game, and that hole is the takedown defense. I mean, this guy's getting taken down by some low-level guys, right? And Moises, if Moises takes you down, you're going to be in trouble. Moises' ground game is absolutely no joke. Costa taking this fight on short notice. If Moises gets his fight down to the mat, I think it's going to be over shortly after. I like Moises inside the distance, and I'm on it for a half a unit. Next, we have Gregory Rodriguez going against Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, I do have a bet here. So on Stat Diggers on Sunday, we talked about this. So FanDuel put a fight won't start round 3 line at minus 112 on Sunday, and I didn't think much of it. And then me and Weezy did a show on Monday, and that line was still there 24 hours later. So, okay, I'll put some money on it. I put 2 units on it. I'm kicking myself for not putting more on it. But I'm on the fight won't start round 3, minus 112. Clearly a terrible line by FanDuel Sportsbook, but wanted to take advantage there because I was looking to bet the under 1.5 rounds anyway. And if I was not on that, I would be betting the under 1.5 rounds here, just due to the fact that Ferreira has never seen the over 1.5 rounds in his career. These guys are going to stand and bang until one man falls. I think Rodriguez does knock him out in the first round. I would not be laying minus 360? Oh, he's only minus 285, minus 300, because he has been knocked out before, and Bruno can crack, but I think Rodriguez gets it done in the first round. But yeah, under 1.5. I'm on the fight won't start round 3, 2 units, minus 112. Like I said, I should have went harder on that, but it is what it is. But yeah, under 1.5 is probably the way to go at this point, I'd say. Next, we have Ilir Peteria going against Shogun Hua. It's a pass for me. I mean, the only thing I would look at is Peteria first round KO, but even that, you're not getting a lot of plus money there. I think it's like plus 270, and I'll be honest, I'm not huge on Peteria. I don't think he's great. I don't really think he's UFC caliber, but he's going against Shogun, who's 41 years old. I picture this fight playing out, Peteria going in there and just knocking him out probably in the first round. So I think that's what happens, but not getting enough plus money to bet it personally. Like I said, I'm not completely sold on Peteria. Another pass spot for me. Next, we have the main card opener, Johnny Walker going against Paul Craig. And I like violence here. This is my biggest play of the night. I have the under 1.5 rounds at minus 140. Got it on DraftKings last week. 2.5 units on it. I see it at Bet365 at minus 138, which is wild. But yeah, I'm on violence here. I think this fight lines up to be a very violent fight. We have a striker versus grappler matchup. I think there's some recency bias because Craig went the distance for the first time, ever in his last fight against Volkan Oezdemir, and that's a concern for people here, but I can tell you right now, Johnny Walker and Volkan Oezdemir are nothing alike. Especially, nowadays, Volkan looked awful. He looked horrendous in the Craig fight. He looked washed, and he was still able to beat Paul Craig 30-27. So on the feet, it's Walker all day. He's much bigger, much more powerful. Paul Craig, chinny. Not the best striking. And then on the mat, Paul Craig can sub anybody. He subbed Jamal Hill, who's fighting for a title. He subbed Magomed Ankalaev, who fought for a title. He can sub anybody in the division at any time. I think somebody's getting served here, and I think somebody's getting served in the first round. 2.5 units on the under 1.5 rounds for me. Next, we have Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy. I'm a big Jessica Andrade fan, but nothing's sticking out here. I mean, she's minus 500. What are you going to do there? She should absolutely wipe the floor with Murphy. It's just kind of where I'm struggling is, Jessica Andrade, does she win by decision or does she win inside the distance? The thing is, Murphy's like so tough. She's only been knocked out once, and it was against Valentina in the 4th round, but Jessica can't crack, and I think she's much better than Murphy. So it's just one where I'm kind of flipping back and forth on the method. I think Andrade does win if you want to parlay her. Not something I would do, but, I'd go for it. I think she wins more often than not. But yeah, give me Andrade here, but nothing sticking out. Gilbert Burns, Neil Magny. I like Burns a lot in this matchup. He's about minus 500. He's taking a big step down going from like Hamzat and Usman. And not only is he taking a step down, but he's very, very good stylistic matchup here. Neil Magny, about a 50% takedown defense, a little bit better than that. Magny's been submitted 5 times. You see it on the screen there. And Burns is going to take down Magny, and he's probably going to finish him. I mean, Burns' ground game is absolutely no joke. And Magny's been submitted a lot. He's been submitted a ton. Not only in his career, but in the UFC specifically. So I like Burns. I like Burns by sub. I like Burns to win this fight inside the distance, and I do have a half a unit on Burns inside the distance at plus 110. That line has moved a tad, but it's still plus money on some books. So you do like some Burns inside the distance there. All right, next we have the co-main event, Davis and Figueiredo going against Brandon Moreno. I don't know. I'm gonna sit back and watch this one. I don't think there's an edge, guys. I mean, it should be a pick'em. I wanted to see how Figgy looked on the scales, and he looked phenomenal. I mean, that's the best Figgy's probably looked in a while, which is weird. Was not really expecting that, especially at 35 years old after about a year off. But if you're a Figgy backer, you should be pretty happy with what you saw on the scale. I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to go to decision. It's probably going to be close. Nothing for me. I mean, if I bet this fight, it would be on the plus money side, which at this point would be Figgy. But, man, I don't know. I'm staying away. It's a phenomenal fight. I'm staying away. I'm going to stick with my pick for Moreno, but I'm not too confident in it, to be honest. I think it's going to be a close fight one way or another. So passing on the co-main event. And then finally, we have the main event, Jamal Hill, Glover Teixeira. Man, Glover looked good on the scale. He just looked old. I mean, he's 43 years old. We have a striker versus grappler matchup here once again where Hill's going to have the striking advantage, the speed advantage, the power advantage on the feet. Glover Teixeira is obviously going to have the advantage on the mat with the submissions, the ground and pound, all that. It's a close fight. I feel like this fight can go either way. I think Glover's getting counted out just a tad. He's always the dog. People are always saying he's too old, and he keeps winning, regardless. I mean, people have been saying Glover's too old for the last 4 years, and he still keeps on winning. So I think it's a winnable matchup for Glover Teixeira. Can't quite pull the trigger on him. I know the 43 years old of age. I mean, it scares me a little bit. But if I was forced to bet a side, it would be the plus money on Teixeira. I'll tell you that. What I did do is I did a violence parlay, and if you guys know me, like I said, I'm trying to stay away from the parlays this year. And if you guys know me, I'm trying to stay away from the 3-leg parlays. I've never done 3-leg parlays. I think the last time I did a 3-leg parlay was 3 years ago. But I do have a 3-leg parlay for this card. It's not the smartest thing to do, but I just would be really surprised if either of these legs lost. So here's my 3-leg parlay, and it starts with the fight doesn't go to decision. In the McKinney fight, McKinney-Bonfim fight doesn't go to decision, and then the fight doesn't go to decision in the Craig Walker fight, and then the fight doesn't go to decision in the Teixeira-Jamal Hill fight that came out to minus 148, and I put 1.5 units on it. I'd be surprised if either of these 3 fights went the distance. Paul Craig's been to decision twice in his entire career. Just look at these finish rates. Johnny Walker, 95% finish rate. Paul Craig, a 100% finish rate. Walker's been finished 5 times. Craig's been finished 4 times. Look at these finish rates for Hill's Teixeira in a 5-round fight. Hill, 64% finish rate, lost by knockout submission against Paul Craig, and his only loss. Against, Teixeira, 85% finish rate. He's been finished 4 times. And then we have the king of violence, Terrence McKinney, with a 100% finish rate in his wins and his losses. Finished 3 times by knockout, once by sub, and it went 100% finish rate. And Bonfim's been finishing all his losses. So that's my violence parlay of the week. You're not going to see me doing a lot of parlays this year. You're probably never going to see me do a 3-leg parlay again for a while, but this is one that kind of stuck out. So I'll quickly run through my action. I have Paul Craig, Johnny Walker, under 1.5 rounds, minus 140, 2.5 units. I have the parlay from last week to this week, Alassane Ribeiro, under 1.5, parlay with Bonfim McKenny, under 1.5, plus 117, 1 unit. I have Nunez Farron, under 2.5 rounds, minus 135, 1 unit on that. I have the Bruno Ferreira, Gregory Rodriguez fight won't start round 3 on FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 112, 2 units. And then I have the fight doesn't go to decision for Stamen Lacerda, plus 170, half a unit. I have the Magny Burns. Burns wins inside the distance, plus 110, half a unit. I have Thiago Moises wins inside the distance, plus 114, half a unit. I have the Daniel Marcos decision only, half a unit, plus 165. And then finally, my violence parlay, my 3-legger. Bonfim McKenny fight doesn't go. Teixeira Hill fight doesn't go. Paul Craig Walker fight doesn't go. Came out to minus 148 for 1.5 units there. Best of luck on this card. It's a chalky one, but at least I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 9 bets, 5 of them plus money, so feeling good about that, but it's a chalky card, lots of big favorites like last week, and a lot of those favorites did come through. I think the same thing happens here for the most part. So leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit me up on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFSbythenumbers. Check out Best Bet 1 hour prior to the prelims, going to be a fire show. Doing a new competition this week or this year, tracking everybody throughout the year in terms of the best bets. So looking forward to that as well. So you guys, talk to you later. Best of luck and enjoy the card. Should be a very fun one.